What's poppin', everybody? This is Sabro54 and I'm gonna show you guys a reasoning deck from its freshest days, Magician's Force 2003 format, but you can actually apply this deck in the Dark Crisis 2003 format too, before the Dark Crisis corresponding ban list. There's a few cards, like maybe DD War Lady, that you can entertain from Dark Crisis, but I wouldn't swap it for Breaker or Trap Infected Virus. So this is why this deck pretty much is from the Magician's Force Dark Crisis 2003 format. Anyway, if you don't know what reasoning does, I'll explain pretty soon when we get to the card. But we're going to start with the monsters first, and the first guy is going to be the big Tyrant Dragon, one of the only real decks from back then that you can actually really use this card and take advantage of. This is possibly the best level 8 monster during that time. It has 2900 attack, 2500 defense, and what it does is it has a little bit of a defense when it comes to back row. It's going to negate any trap card that targets this card, so it's going to be immune to Ring of Destruction and perhaps Sakiretsu Armor, maybe a few other cards depending on if your opponent is using them. But the primary reason is it's going to be able to play through Ring of Destruction, which is a big card. And it can actually attack twice. If it kills an opponent's monster by battle, it can make a second attack. You can technically, I guess, take this out and put in a Blue Eyes White Dragon if you want to have that 3k, but I prefer to have this card. It's really cool, and it's going to be our level 8 monster for this deck. For our level 7 monster, we're going to have a Barrel Dragon, that's right, Bandit Keith's monster. This is possibly the best pick for level 7. It has more attack than Dark Magician, and it can also the effect can be kind of handy if it works with the coin flips. It can come up. So you target one monster your opponent controls, you toss a coin 3 times, and if you get at least 2 heads, you destroy that monster. So if you can get like a free destruction effect, and they don't have any other monsters, then you can poke for more damage with this card. So it's pretty nice. That's why we run him. Then we go to the level 6. We got Dark Ruler Hades and Jinzo. Jinzo, I think, is pretty self-explanatory. It was possibly the strongest level 6 monster back then, a win condition monster. I mean, it had less attack than Summon Skull and even Dark Ruler Hades, but I mean, negate all of your opponent's trap cards. You know that's a win condition effect, lock effect. Pretty powerful for that time. It was at 1. We definitely want to run it, and we definitely want to take advantage of this card in this reasoning deck. I mean, it's one of the great things about reasoning, getting big-ass boss monsters like this card for free, basically. So it's going to be a really big advantage if we can get this card through reasoning. Now, as for Dark Ruler Hades, it won't be able to be special summoned from the graveyard, but it actually can't be special summoned through reasoning from the deck, which is another great monster for this reason. This guy is great because obviously he's going to kill monsters by battle and they won't get their effects. So Sangan, Witch of the Black Forest, Magician of Faith, Mask of Darkness, Mystic Tornado, you name it. There's so many good cards that this card is going to negate during those formats. Giant Rat, I mean, Nimble, Momonga in the Injection Fairy Lily decks too. So it's going to put in the work. It's actually stronger than Jinzo too. So if your opponent does have a Jinzo and you get this guy out, you can actually run Jinzo over. So pretty good, definitely run it. As for level 5, we have Air Knight Parasath. The best monster for level 5s, possibly. Its attack is average for a Tribute Summon level 5 monster, but it does piercing damage, inflict the difference when it attacks a defense position monster, and you draw a card when you inflict battle damage. So usually what you're going to do is it'll usually net you a card. So it's pretty good. We need a level 5 options. We need a lot of variety when it comes to monsters in Reasoning decks. I'm going to explain later. But this is basically the best target. Yeah, the attack can be kind of average, but it's still, I mean, 1900. It matches things like Gemini Elf. So unless your opponent is using something like Zumbira the Dark, or Goblin Attack Force, you should still be pretty okay. And for the most part, we just want to use this card to attack defense position monsters, get some card advantage, and inflict some battle damage, apply pressure. Should be pretty good still. Now for level 4s, we have 3 monsters. It's going to be the Tribe Infecting Virus, Breaker the Magical Warrior, and Witch of the Black Forest. These are the best options, so that's why I'm using them. I mean, Witch of the Black Forest, self-explanatory once again, all-purpose floater. That can actually get us a bunch of the big monsters too, which is what makes her so good. Search, Aeronite Parsath, Jinzo. Won't be able to do Hades, but I mean, that's still powerful targets. Any of these small monsters too, Sangan, you can just grab everybody. Too good. Floater. We runner. And of course, if you do reveal her through reasoning, then you summon her, and then you can tribute her for a big monster from your hand, then it's not a minus, you get a card back. So it's Witch of the Black Forest. Breaker the Magical Warrior, this card is also pretty good. Excellent level 4 monster because it can give you a +1, destroy a spell or trap card if you remove the spell counter. If you don't, 1900 attack. You gotta love him, so run this guy. And then Tribe Infecting Virus, broken card for sure. You discard a card, destroy face-up monsters of the declared type on the field. So, I mean, this isn't like back when archetypes really were a thing and you have a bunch of decks that use the same type of monster. But even if you destroy one monster on your opponent's field, it's still a 1-for-1. So it's like a Soul Taker / Smashing Ground on demand, basically, this guy. Discard a card, even if you pop one monster, it's still pretty good. And if they have a bunch of monsters of the same type, then yeah, then you're going to really reap the benefits and pop a bunch of monsters. You got to be careful because it's going to pop your own stuff too, but I mean, you got to run this card. It's just going to win you the game. Easy way to kill off big monsters like Jinzo, Hades, Aeronite Parsath. Your opponent might be using Summon Skull, just you name it. Can kill off bigger monsters like Gemini Elf too, if you don't have another way to run over them. So Tribe Infecting Virus, I think you're better off running this rather than some like DD Warrior Lady, perhaps. There's a few other level 4 options, once again, but I think these 3 are the best ones. Now for level 3s, we do Sangan and Spirit Reaper. Once again, the best options, I think. Sangan is nice because it's Sangan, searches a lot of stuff, including Witch of the Black Forest too, which is nice. And Spirit Reaper, it's great if we poke our opponent, we can discard a card from their hand, but the important thing is it doesn't get destroyed by battle. So if you reveal this through reasoning, it's not going to be a useless card on the field, basically, like some other monsters. So that's pretty nice. And yeah, I mean, sometimes it's going to save your ass if they don't have a way to destroy it. That's Spirit Reaper. For level 2s, we have Double Apprentice Magician from Magician's Force. This is an excellent card to use in this deck because it's a card that we can basically set. Your opponent runs it over, you get another one, and then you contribute for one of your big monsters, so that's pretty good. You can grab Magician's Faith, which is nice, and if it's not going to be very common, but if you do have Breaker the Magical Warrior and you do summon Apprentice Magician, you can actually put a spell counter on that card. So you use the spell counter from Breaker, and then you summon this dude, you get the spell counter back. So you can pop more back rows. It's pretty nice. Before Magician's Force, we ran some different cards, like Mask of Darkness for level 2. But this is just a more consistent card. It just gives us multi-purpose. Pretty nice. Level 1s, Magicians of Faith and Sinister Serpent. Once again, the best targets. Magicians of Faith can get us so many broken spell cards. You're spoiled for choice, the stuff you can get. And the important thing is that we can get reasoning too. So it's a way for us to reuse a 4th reasoning or maybe even our 2nd reasoning, depending on if we mill other reasoning copies with reasoning. So that's why you run her. I mean, she was almost a staple in most decks back in the day. So pretty good. And then Sinister Serpent, self-explanatory once again, broken. Gonna soften up the blow with Graceful Charity, the cost for Graceful Charity, so you run it for that. And it's just infinite floater. If you don't really have much going on, you can set this monster as your opponent is killing it. You can grab it back, so you always have a monster to set for a little bit of defense. And basically that's it. I mean, if you reveal it with reasoning, you can once again tribute it with tribute summon monster, you summon Jinzo, and then you're going to get this card back in hand in the standby phase. So the best monsters. Now, we go to some staples, of course. You got Pot of Greed, Graceful Charity, and Upstart Goblin for the draw cards. If you think that Upstart Goblin is too weak compared to Pot of Greed and Graceful Charity, you can't take it out for a different card, a different tech if you want. But I have it because it's another speed card. It helps us just see Reasoning as fast as possible, and you really want to see Reasoning as fast as possible, so you can basically use this deck as a Reasoning deck. Not have the monsters, the big monsters stuck in your hand. Get them out and play. So that's the point. And speaking of the devil himself, Reasoning, the card of the hour. This is the card that really makes this deck work. Now, the reason why I've been mentioning the levels for each monster very specifically is because when you use Reasoning, especially back in those days where you wanted to get a card out, you didn't really want to mill a bunch of monsters, and even if you didn't get anything, you could gain effects in the graveyard. It's not like how it is now, you know, with Light Sworns and the Witchcrafter bitches and other shit. You wanna get a monster with this card, no matter what it is. Otherwise, if you don't, you minus. So we have a variety of monsters because if your opponent calls out the right level, then you don't grab anything. So with a variety of monsters of all different levels, no matter what they pick, you decrease your chances of basically not grabbing anything. So if they pick level 6, you could get something different. You know, it's not like you have a bunch of level 6s and nothing else. We have a variety of monsters. If they pick level 4, you have a variety of different monsters once again. Only 3 level 4 targets. So you have a variety of monsters so that you don't miss it, basically. The best thing you can do, like if you're playing against this deck, my, I guess, tip is you always want to call 6, because the most dangerous monsters your opponent can summon in that era was Jinzo and Hades. I mean, it really depends, especially if you have like a set Sangan or something. You don't want your opponent to grab like a Hades or something. So level 6 ensures that Jinzo and Hades aren't going to come out. Now, it is going to be a pain if they get out something like Tyrant Dragon or Barrel Dragon, but it's just Jinzo and Hades is more dangerous, the stuff they can do. Like, mess with your opponent, mess with your deck most of the time. You're going to have cards that are going to be affected by those two guys. So that's about it. So that's my tip. Usually call 6, not 4 or another level. Okay. So some more staples: the Hand Destruction Trio, Delinquent Duo, Confiscation, and the Forceful Sentry. Apply pressure, you know, look at your opponent's hand, broken stuff, you run them. Then the Destruction Trio, Raigeki, Dark Hole, and Harpy's Feather Duster. Monster Destruction, Spell Destruction. We're going to have the other Spell Destruction cards soon. But before that, Change of Heart, Snatch Steal, the Monster Stealing cards. Pretty great as well. Must have them. And then Monster Reborn, Premature Barrier, Revival cards, staples once again. And then more Spell and Trap card removal, Heavy Storm, and triple Mystical Space Typhoon. We max out the triple MST basically because you want to have as much back row hate as you can. Not all of the decks back then are going to use a lot of back row, but some of them do. And if you don't have Jinzo out, you don't want to summon your big monster through Reasoning only to die to back row. Or basically, have something like Solemn Judgment negate your Reasoning, something like that. Even a Magic Drain negate your Reasoning. And then you got to discard a different spell card if you wanted to go off. So just having the MSTs to clear up your opponent's back row is good. And then for our own back row, we run Imperial Order and double Magic Drain. This is our protection against spell cards. Once again, if you do get one of your big guys out, you don't want to let your opponent destroy them easily with Raigeki, steal them with Change of Heart or Snatch Steal, and just do nasty stuff to them basically. So these cards offer a little bit of protection. Of course, it's going to protect your other back row too. If you have them, they use like Heavy Storm or something, or Duster. Of course, Imperial Order is going to put in the work. Magic Drain, going to make your opponent's life difficult. They got to discard a spell card if they want the effect to go off. So, good stuff. Have them for a little bit of defense. And then we run Ring of Destruction and Magic Cylinder as well. These cards are basically kill more cards for this deck. This deck is an aggressive deck compared to other decks in that era that are more control based. Summoning big monsters, getting a big monster through reasoning and then getting a normal summon too, something like Breaker the Magical Warrior or any monster basically, you apply a lot of pressure to your opponent. Like you get more monsters easily through reasoning in this deck. So you're going to want to go aggro, pressure your opponent, and Ring of Destruction and even Magic Cylinder help you with that. Just kill your opponent quickly before they can really do shit and establish themselves. Magic Cylinder is technically a minus, but if you're going to win the game or inflict a lot of damage, it shouldn't be too bad. So I decided to include it, but you can swap it for a Mirror Force or something else if you want to. And then the last card is just one Call of the Haunted. Since we have so many big monsters, Call of the Haunted is going to put in some work, of course, staple at the end of the day. You would run it in almost any deck back then, to be honest. Get some extra search in with Witch of the Black Forest, Sankan, good bonus when you chain it at the right time. So, good stuff. And this is basically the Reasoning deck, guys. It's pretty good. It's one of my favorite decks from the 2003 Magician's Force and our Crisis format. By no means is the strongest deck. There's a bunch of decks that are pretty sort of on an even playing field back in the era. Some decks are good against specific decks, others better in other decks. Hand Control is possibly, I guess, the most broken deck you could say, with Yatagaratsu, Danzaluk, and all the other hand destruction cards, the Timeses and shit. But it doesn't mean this deck is going to auto-lose against it, It's pretty good deck for sure. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you want to learn more about tips and strategy with this deck and about these classic formats and more decks from those eras, you can check out my book, The Original Yu-Gi-Oh! Era. Link is in the description. You can find it on Amazon. It's available for physical order, digital order, and Kindle Unlimited if you have that. So check it out if you're interested. Good stuff back in the day when skill mattered. Hope you enjoyed this deck profile. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, share this video with your friends, and I'll see you guys next time. What